Hi, this is Anthony Brogdon from Strong Inspirations. And here's another one of my videos. And I do them nationally. I find some very profound people who love good Black history across the country. Today I have Rosetta Funches of the Oklahoma City Black History Museum. The short story was she hosted a showing of my film, Business in the Black, had a packed house at the school, which is now a theater, arts center in Oklahoma City. Rosetta, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Anthony.
Do you see I got your plaque on my wall?
Oh, yeah, I see.
Oh, man, I'm so proud of that. I don't know what to do.
Well, we're glad that we made it where you could be proud of.
Oh, that was a beautiful thing. So tell us about the Oklahoma Black City Museum. Do I have that right? The name of the museum?
No, not quite. I'm gonna tell you the exact wording of it. It's Oklahoma Black Museum and Performing Arts Center.
Okay.
And then since then we've started another museum, and it's called the National African American Jazz Legacy Museum.
Okay, I remember you were telling me about museums. Now, what did the museums do, and what's some good Black history in Oklahoma City?
Okay, the purpose of the Oklahoma Black Museum is to bring to the community history about our culture, as well as special events and exhibits. And then the National African American Jazz Legacy Museum is another museum that we founded. It's national, and the purpose of it is to etch in stone the legend of African jazz.
Okay.
Hubie Blake, who was a musician, and he's dead now, but he was a historian and a jazz musician. He said that wherever they left, dropped the slaves off in any country in the world, they left hot music. And so we're right now etching in stone the legacy of jazz, because if we don't etch that in stone now, other cultures will have it and gone.
Oh, I got you.
Claim it. So we want to make sure that the whole world knows where the origin of it.
I remember when we met, you had some good stories, Black history stories of how slaves got to Oklahoma City. Can you tell us that?
Well, that's a long project there. We work with a national organization called the observance of Juneteenth.
Okay.
And if you can check to NJOF, you can see the whole story of how that all happened, the history of slavery and how it ended in Galveston. We have new information now from our Oklahoma historians that it didn't end in Galveston, Texas. It actually ended in Oklahoma with the signing of treaties with the Indians. These Indians owned slaves too.
A lot of people don't know that. So how did they get to Oklahoma City and Tulsa?
Well, they migrated all the way from the east, all the way over this way. And like I said, check into that. It's a long story. So what you need to do is look at NJOF, and that will give you the whole rundown on it and that whole history.
Now there's oil. Did a lot of Black people have oil land with oil on it in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, a lot of them had oil. Yeah, Oklahoma, we had the more all Black towns than any other state. We had about close to 60 to 100 all Black towns.
What does an all Black town mean?
That means that, like right now you see all different cultures in a city. Okay, Black towns are small places that people establish a place to live.
And so Black people that got their freedom from the Indians as everybody else did? Is that how that went?
No, what happened was there was a man by the name of Edwin P. McCabe. And he was at one time, he was a Black man, and at one time he was the treasurer of Kansas. And so when he lost his election, he put out a call for all Blacks to come to Oklahoma. And so that's what happened. And that's the reason why we had so many Black towns. We had close to 50, 60, a lot of people say close to 100 all Black towns. And that's more Black towns than any other state.
Now, when they got there, what kind of time period are we talking about? When did they start migrating to Oklahoma?
In the late early 1900s.
Okay.
And then just like, for instance, my grandmother brought my daddy here from Mississippi because she said it was a better way. See, back in those early days, in the early 1900s and 1800s, they were lynching and killing Blacks.
Right.
So Blacks, like I said, were slaves. And so Mississippi, they say at that time, was the worst state in the Union. So my grandmother moved, his father had passed when he was 3 years old. And so she moved here from Mississippi. I still remember her telling me about that.
Oh, really?
That they moved here because there was a better way because of the, see, here in Oklahoma, they had a land run where they would shoot a gun and everybody go claim their land. That you could read that about that too. So
Oh,
anyway, all these blacks came all the way from Florida, all the way over in different places because he put out this call for blacks to come to Oklahoma because it's a better way. So they
Is-
all came here, and that's the reason why you had so many all black towns. And if you noticed, a lot of them ended up in Tulsa. You heard about that massacre in Tulsa.
yeah, well, sure.
But anyway, I'm sure that when they came down to Tulsa from everywhere and all over Oklahoma, that was part of that call for blacks to come to Oklahoma.
Now, did Oklahoma City have some race riots like they did in Tulsa, or white people more acceptable?
Well, let's face it, Anthony, they still having race riots.
Yeah, sure.
Look at blacks have never been free. Let's face it.
Sure.
And so
sure.
everywhere you go is a problem. So there's what I always tell people, everywhere is different and everybody's having problems. And for 400 years, blacks have never had their freedom.
Sure.
So, and right now, and I told my whole solution to that is, the answer to that whole problem is every time they have an election, they put two people up there to run against each other that still both believe in favoritism as far as whites are concerned, white superiority. So you have two races to vote, for one or the other.
Yes.
And so that's why they keep it in check. And then in another thing, they'll say, now these are just my theories, so you don't have to publish this.
Yeah.
But like they'll say, oh, so-and-so's too far over to the left. So-and-so's too far. Okay, well, we need an explanation. What does too far to the left mean? Giving you your freedom and equal opportunities. Every time you see them, oh, that so-and-so's too far to the left. Think about it. That means that they don't want you to have too much freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
To be a human being. And then they'll say over to the right or get in the middle. And the middle means that, safe. But
now, let me go back to the history part. Is there more blacks in Oklahoma City than Tulsa, or what's the makeup of the black population there?
Oklahoma City, I don't, to be honest, I don't know the makeup, but you mean as far as the difference in Oklahoma and Tulsa,
Yes.
the black?
Yes.
Well, see, that whole situation was about black businesses.
Okay.
They all came to Tulsa because Tulsa had the most dynamic black cultural business in the United States.
Right.
And I'm sure that's because of that call to come to Oklahoma. Okay, they all flocked into Tulsa, and Tulsa had more businesses than they did for white people. And so the white people actually were jealous of the black businesses. And so that was another reason they bombed it.
Exactly.
But they said the real reason that, they said, well, this white guy was on the elevator. The black guy was on the elevator and he winked at a white woman, girl.
Right. Yeah,
and so that's the reason why they bombed it. But they said actually the deep root of it was they were jealous of the black businesses in Tulsa.
Exactly. Now in Oklahoma City, what did the black people do for a living? Were they farmers, or there was some industry, or what?
Okay, back in the day when I was coming up, women were doing maid work. You would see them sitting on the street, waiting on the bus to go out to the White House, wherever they worked, to do maid work. Now the men, they worked on the railroad. They considered that, that was top of the line if you could get a job working on the railroad. And everybody bragged about that. And then, they had school teachers. But mostly blacks did labor, labor work.
Are there a lot of black farmers in Oklahoma City?
Not to my knowledge. I'm sure there were some.
Yeah. Okay.
But like I said, the main thing was that you was almost a slave. So you had to work, as a black person, work for the white person. They worked in hotels, did that kind of work.
I got you.
And that second class work that blacks had to do.
So a lot of black people look like they have Indian in them and that kind of thing. How does that makeup go?